What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm your host, Howard Bender. This is Three-Point Play. What is Three-Point Play? It's a very casual yet spirited debate between Fantasy Alarm and analysts, one-on-one, mano-y-mano. The only rule to this section of debating here is that you need to make three separate valid points to support your argument. If you don't make three valid points to support your argument, you lose automatically. Three topics, 3 points, two different sides. And I'm joined here with Steve Pimental of fantasyalarm.com. Steve, I got to tell you, I had my way with James Grande already. I think I kind of gave a little noogie to Matt Sells yesterday. It's your turn. Do you think you can handle it?
Well, I'm glad you warmed up on the appetizers and you're good and ready, because I'm going to bring it today and you're going to need to as well.
Well, challenge accepted here. I'm very excited about this. Let's start with topic number one. That is, we're sitting here on the cusp of the Warriors potentially losing the NBA Finals to the Toronto Raptors. Injuries to Kevin Durant. Klay Thompson is banged up, and all of a sudden there's real concern here that the Warriors are going to end up losing. The question is, Steve, is the Warriors losing the NBA Finals after being the team everybody just expected to win? Is this good or bad for the NBA?
Howard, it's bad for the NBA, and people love having someone to root against. I mean, George Steinbrenner's money wasn't the only reason people love to hate the Yankees. It was also just, they're in every sport, when you have a big bad team that everyone else is trying to topple, that draws in more interest. I mean, you and I are going to watch the NBA no matter what, but the casual person who just wants to, flip it on and see how the Warriors are doing, that's going to go away. And, look at, does anyone think Jeopardy became more interesting after that James guy lost? No, it's people wanted to see what was going to happen with him. That's why people tune in to see the Warriors. Secondly, the Kevin Durant drama in the offseason is going to be a lot more interesting if the Warriors win, because it would be completely unprecedented for someone to leave after 3 straight years and then just to join another team. I mean, unless you want to count Michael Jordan retiring a couple of times, that just doesn't happen. If they lose, it's not as big a deal. It's more understood. If they lose and he wants to go someplace else, that makes sense. It'll be really dramatic if Kevin Durant leaves. And then the third reason that the Warriors winning wouldn't be good for the NBA is because next season won't be as compelling. If Kawhi walks, Toronto would be the weakest defending champion since, again, those post-Jordan Bulls. And even if Kawhi stays, they might not even be the favorites to win the title or even to get to the finals out of the East. And whereas if Golden State wins, you get another offseason of teams trying to load up to defeat them. And that includes LeBron James. I mean, really, the casual fans, they want LeBron and the Warriors. And if the Warriors win and then the Lakers get over their dysfunction and add a couple players, you potentially have that drama again. If the Warriors are coming off a loss, then it's not nearly as big a deal. They might not even be the team to beat.
I see all 3 points that you're making here, and I'm going to tell you, I think, in my opinion, the Warriors losing would be great for the NBA. We're tired of it. We're done with it. It's trite. It's cliche. All right, number one, we need to see super teams failing. Like, that's something that needs to happen. We get that in football when the Washington Redskins just throw money at problems and then they never win a championship there. I think that's what we need to see in basketball. Stop letting these players dictate where they play so that they can form these super teams. And look what happens. KD joins the Golden State Warriors, and no, they don't win. He doesn't play. And it's not always what's best for the team to end up with a situation like that. So super teams failing, number one. Number two, shows that anything can happen in the playoffs. That's something the NBA desperately needs. It is the most predictable set of playoffs. It's the most predictable season. Every pundit in the world picked the Warriors and the Raptors to meet in the finals this year, and with the Warriors winning. So, boom, how predictable can you get? Even right before all the playoff matchups, it was the same thing. Golden State, Toronto, boring. And point number 3, what a huge boost for our friends up north, right? Let's give it up for the Canadians. They're polite, they're nice, and they've got themselves a championship. You know, the Vancouver franchise that lost out. Guess what? Maybe we can stop wasting time with the G League, start expanding more into Canada with a boost of, hey, wouldn't you like to be the next Toronto Raptors? How about you, Moose Jaw, Saskatchewan?
That's great for Canada, but no one in America cares about a defending champion from Canada. It's just, it's unfortunate, but I think it's pretty clear that that's true.
Oh, come on. How many people still cite the 94 Montreal Expos as the most robbed franchise of all time?
A few people on Twitter, and I don't think they're representative of fans as a whole. I agree with you that something that's predictable is boring, but that didn't stop Cavs Warriors from getting crazy ratings, even last year, even in a sweep. The casual fans have spoken. They don't mind when it's boring. And lastly, did you really cite the Washington football team as a super team going? Has anyone ever called them a super team since John Riggins retired?
I don't think we called them a super team. I was using that as an example of just throwing money at a problem and trying to build it up off of that. Point well taken there against Washington. But listen, man, don't be poo-pooing expansion in Canada, my friend. Think of all that's untapped resources right there. Untapped resources. If all these other sports are going international, why can't the NBA just get further expanded up there into Canada? I think every sport should do it. Screw the minor leagues. Just every sport expand to Canada and Mexico, South America. And let's get it on, baby. Let's get it on. What do you guys out there think? Tweet us at Fantasy Alarm, at RotoBuzzGuy, at Steve's Fantasy AD. The Warriors losing the NBA Finals. Do you agree with Steve? You think it's a terrible thing for the NBA? Or you siding with me saying, yeah, baby, let's go Toronto. Next topic here, we're going to talk MLB bullpens. My man Steve Pimentel does the bullpen report over at fantasyalarm.com. So I figured it would be nice and appropriate. 2 of the most putrid bullpens in the world right now. In the world. As if baseball reaches internationally here. It probably, it does to that, sir. I would take any KBO bullpen over the current Washington Nationals, the current Pittsburgh Pirates, the worst bullpens in Major League Baseball right now. Steve, I'm going to start off here, and I'm going to say the Washington team is the one who turns it around before Pittsburgh does, and they become less putrid. Point number 1, team is willing to spend money to improve. We've seen this numerous times with Washington. They'll make trades. They'll dish off prospects. They have no problem spending some money. It's very surprising to me that they did not get Craig Kimbrell in this little sweepstakes here. But for the same token, I think that the team is willing to make stark improvements. Number 2, get a little bit more analytical. Strand rates for some of these relievers like Grace and Trevor Rosenthal, Tony Sipp even. They're going to regress to the mean. Like, they're all putrid right now. You're talking about strand rates somewhere in like the 50 and 60%. That's not the norm. And I think that things will right themselves because that's what happens in baseball. All right, that's why we go over all these statistics. Now, yes, so there's some pitchers who just fall off and lose it. Yes, I'm sure they do. But I think that we see a little regression to the mean in strand rates, and some of these guys for Washington improve. Third point here, we'll end up using them less anyway because their starters are going to be like, we can't trust these dudes. We're going to throw complete games. Max Scherzer, Strasburg, Corbin. These guys are going to be workhorses going at least 7 or 8 innings now because they just can't trust it to happen. So Washington, to me, is who turns it around first.
I think Pittsburgh has the better chance to turn around. And the first reason why is because they've dealt with bad luck as well. They rank 18th in MLB at xFIP and 8th in K per 9. So they really don't need a whole lot other than just luck to change a little bit to at least make it to the middle of the pack, which would be a far improvement from where they've been so far. Secondly, the back end of the bullpen has actually been good. Their relievers ERA is terrible because they keep shuffling in guys from either failed starters or AAA relievers who have been pretty terrible. But Francisco Liriano, Kyle Crick, and Felipe Vasquez have all been good. Vasquez struggled the last 2 weeks, but he still has a 2.30 ERA, 1.21 WHIP, and a 5.38 strikeout to walk ratio. So, and again, if the starters can, the Pittsburgh starters have thrown the 6th fewest innings in baseball, because I'm not counting the Rays because openers don't count. And so if Pittsburgh starters start going a little bit deeper, then the bullpen's going to improve just by giving fewer innings to really terrible relievers. And then the third reason I think Pittsburgh's bullpen can turn around is because help may be on the way from AAA. They've got Tyler Lyons, who's been good at AAA so far. I think he could be better if he gets another shot with the Pirates. And Davidas Neverauskas, who sounds like he should be a Lithuanian power forward, but apparently he's a reliever in AAA, and he's been awfully good in the minors this year. And like Lyons, I think he could be good when he gets called up again.
And how tired is that Pittsburgh bullpen going to get? I mean, come on. You can't look at even like a guy like Joe Musgrove as being a guy who's going to go more than 5 or 6 frames nowadays because he pitches to too much contact. Chris Archer's been an outright disaster. Jordan Lyles, your ERA, your numbers keep getting blown up because, Steven Brault is back and forth from reliever to starter. The dude is absolutely atrocious there. So you don't have starters to go deep into these games at all, which means that all these guys are just going to continue to get overworked. Yes, Keone Keela, Chris Stratton might be coming off the IL at some point soon, but man, this is brutal. I don't necessarily see them either doing it. I also, when you look at a guy like Kyle Crick or even a guy like Keone Keela when he's healthy, I can see Pittsburgh trading these guys off.
That is a concern, though. They're a game under 500 in the National League. I mean, they're not that far out of the wild card, though. I would agree they're probably more likely to be sellers than buyers. But you talked about about Washington going deeper into some of these games. Steven Strasburg's arm's going to fall off if they try to throw him more than 7 innings a game. I mean, Scherzer can go deep, fine, but we've seen that Strasburg. I mean, it's not an exaggeration. That's going to happen sooner or later. And outside of Sean Doolittle, there's just no one else in that bullpen that you can try. Trevor Rosenthal was supposed to be the guy. He had 9 walks in 3 innings, and no one else on that team can throw at all. I mean, how much bullpen help? They're going to have to buy 5 guys just to put together a decent bullpen. I mean, no team has that kind of money.
Come on, Trevor's working his stuff out in the minors right now. He's getting his groove on. Stella gets her groove back, and guess what? Trevor Rosenthal gets his groove on. All right, well, hit us up, guys, again at Fantasy Alarm on Twitter. Who is it? Is it Pittsburgh or is it Washington? Who's got the best chance of turning things around, helping out their starting pitching? Topic number 3, and this one here, because my man Steve does the WNBA coverage, and I do the WNBA podcast with him here on Fantasy Alarm. So I figured, Steve, why don't we debate who the number 1 player in the WNBA is? Who's the lady that we should be locking into our lineups in DFS as much as we possibly can? Who's going to be the queen of the court? I turn it to you first.
Well, anyone who's listened to our podcast or read any of my stuff this WNBA season knows I'm going to pick Jonquel Jones as the best player in the WNBA. And as my close personal friend Bill Shakespeare says, how do I love thee? Let me count the ways. Number one, she's the best rebounder in the league. She owns the record, the WNBA record for most rebounds in a season. In 2017, she rebounded a quarter of all misses when she was on the floor. 1 out of every 4 rebounds when she's on the floor, she grabbed. No one can match that. Literally, she has the record. So she's the best rebounder in the league. But wait, she's also arguably the best three-point shooter in the league. She's a 42.5% career three-point shooter. She led the league in three-point percentage last year on more than 3 attempts per game, and she was third in the league in 2017. So, and on top of, because she's a good three-point shooter, which most of the other bigs in the league aren't nearly as good as she is, she also led the league in effective field goal percentage in 2018, and was second in true shooting percentage. So she rebounds, she rebounds, she can shoot from the outside, and because of that, she fits alongside anyone. You can put her at the 4 against a bigger player. She'll go outside, space the floor. She's quick enough to drive past bigger players if you put her at the 5. She's a good passer. She can battle down low. She does a little bit of everything, which is the third reason that I think she's the best. They're the best team in the league when she plays and the worst when she doesn't. And she doesn't even have to be a high usage player to be effective because she can help her team in so many ways.
Well, hot damn, look at you diving into the stats like that, my man. That's why you do the playbook. That's why I just ride shotgun and provide quick wit and some entertaining anecdotes on the podcast here. But I'll tell you, man, listen, I like Jonquel Jones. You've definitely turned me on to her and opened my eyes to her as we've done the podcast. I, my friend, think the MVP this year is going to be my girl, Liz Cambage. I dig her, man. How could you not? You want to give Jones the ball and say drive through the lane and try and get past Cambage? Come on. 6'8", dude, and she's got incredible athleticism for a girl that size. She really, really does. And she's such a presence, such a force in the middle. Now, I know she's coming back from an Achilles injury, and it's going to be slow and steady. But listen, she's in the last 2 games, you've seen the minutes increase for her steadily. They're going to just continue to go up until finally you start seeing points per game, rebounds per game, like you saw last year, which brings me to point number 2. 23 points per game, 9.7 rebounds per game, second in the MVP voting. She's a force when she's out there on the court. And I'll tell you what, man, Dallas would not have won any games at all if it wasn't for Liz Cambage last year. That's just bottom line. That's fact. That's why she forced her way off of this team, even injured. She was like, trade me, get me out of here, let me go someplace where I can compete, where I can win. And that brings me to point number 3 about my girl Liz Cambage. Something to prove in Las Vegas now that she forces a trade like that. Listen, that's a bold move. And we saw this between Connecticut and the Sparks with Shanae Ogumike. Yeah, see, I'm going to mispronounce that a million times this year anyway. But we saw that with her. And guess what? Connecticut turned around and slapped the crap out of her this past game here. That's not happening to Liz Cambage. When she is 100% healthy, she's got a chip on her shoulder, and she wants to show everybody she should have won the MVP last year. She's going to dominate this season, and she's going to walk away with MVP honors.
Well, it's interesting that you bring up wins and you bring up Shanae Ogumike because Connecticut, as you said, kicked out an all-star, and they're 4-1 this year because some of those minutes that were going to Shanae are now going to Jonquel Jones, who should be the MVP. And Liz Cambage, there are only 5 players on the court at any given time. If she was that good, then the Wings should have won 20 games last season, or the last, just like Connecticut has the last 2 seasons. I mean, Liz Cambage puts up great numbers, but she's not easy to play with. She clogs the paint and she has the ball a lot. And, that's difficult. It's difficult to be her teammate at times. And Jonquel Jones doesn't have either of those issues.
Well, maybe that issue is there in Dallas, but maybe it's not there in Las Vegas for this season here. Perhaps there were some behind-the-scenes things going on between players and coaches and whatnot in Dallas, which is one of the main reasons why Cambage said, "Get me the hell out of Dallas right now. Let me go play with some people who want to play, who want to be a good, solid team here." And it doesn't happen like that. So, listen, I think it's more of a toss-up than you think.
You're probably right, and I'm obviously, as I said, even beyond just how good she is, Jonquel Jones is just so much fun to watch. I
don't even think we need to turn this over to the people on Twitter, Steve. I think you just concede. Did you just concede?
I was trying to give you credit. I was trying to make you feel better about. I wasn't expecting to literally see you flat.
Listen, man, sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes you got to do it.
Hey, if I looked like you, I'd be flexing all the time too. That's for sure.
Right, there you go. There you go. Now somebody's fixing for a raise over at Fantasy Alarm. Look at that. That's going to do it for us here at 3 Point Play. Big thanks to my man, Steve Pimentel, for taking the punches that I keep dishing out for no good reason. Big thanks to our producer, Matt Sells. This has been 3 Point Play on Fantasy Alarm TV. I'm Howard Bender, and we'll catch you next time.